All right, guys, let's start one more session on Azure Administrator. Let me show you the agenda for today's class. Okay, in today's class, we'll discuss briefly about network interface and we'll understand what is a secondary network interface, why do we need that, and then we will understand something called as network security group. What is a network security group? Why do we need a network security group? And then we'll see how to configure couple of things on network security group, like how to set a priority, how to allow an IP address to access, how to configure outbound rules, how to allow ICMP, and how to assign a network security group to a subnet. Okay, and then we'll understand an application security group. What is an application security group? After that, we will see how to we'll understand what is a Azure Bastion server or a Bastion host. Okay, and we will do a couple of hands-on exercise. Like first, we'll create a network interface and attach a second network interface to a virtual machine, and then we'll configure NSG rules, that is rules to network security group, and then we'll configure Bastion host. Okay, this is the agenda for this particular session. Now, first of all, let us understand network interface, and we will see why we need a secondary network interface, how to create a second network interface, and assign it. Let me switch to my whiteboard for that. I'm sorry, it's not network security group. First, we'll look into network interface. Okay, and then we will look into network security group. Now, in the previous session, we have discussed that every virtual machine, okay, let's say if this is Azure Cloud, okay, and let's say I'm creating a, first of all, a VNet inside this, okay, inside a VNet, we create a subnet. Let's say this is a subnet. Now, let's say I'm creating a virtual machine, okay. Now, this particular virtual machine, we know that this will get one private IP address. Okay, it will get one private IP address. Now, if it has to communicate with the public over RDP or SSH, if a user is trying to connect from outside Azure, he has to connect to a public IP address. So basically, we need a public IP address. Now, who will have a public IP address? Now, we have discussed in the last session. So, there will be one network interface that will be created, and this network interface will have a public IP address. Okay, this public IP address will communicate, network interface will communicate with private IP address. That is how the communication is established. Okay, so that is the need of having a network IP address. Now, let us say uh, in a VNet, let's say I have three subnets. Let's say this is my VNet. In this VNet, I have three subnets. This is subnet 1, this is subnet 2, and let's say this is subnet 3. Okay, subnet 1, subnet 2, and subnet. Now, let's say in this subnet, I have one virtual machine. In this subnet, I have two virtual machines. And let's say in this, I have again two virtual machines. Now, For this subnet, I have one network interface. For this also, I have one network interface. Now, again, for this one network interface, for this one network interface. But here I have one server, I have two network interfaces. Now, first of all, is it possible to assign two network interfaces to one server or one virtual machine? Yes, it is possible. We can attach two sub network interfaces to one server. Now, what could be the use that we have to give two network interfaces to this particular virtual machine? Now, let's assume this is a database service. This is some functional service. Okay. Now, this is a web server. Now, a web server, it has to be accessed from public. Now, somebody is trying to access a website. You're getting a request. So basically, the request will you'll get from the through the network interface. Now, this has to go and communicate with the web server has to communicate with the database. Now, what I'll do, this traffic that for the internal communication, it can happen through here. So all the public requests, it will take through this network interface. And because I configured second network interface, it will communicate with the second internet network interface with the for the internal servers. In this way, the performance of this server would be better. Okay, one network interface for public, one network interface for the internal communication. This is one of the use cases why we might use a multiple network interfaces. Now let us do one thing. Let us create one virtual machine, and we will see it will have only one network interface. We will create a new network interface manually and then assign this new network interface to this particular server. Okay, let me flip to my Azure console for that. I am on my Azure console. Let me quickly create a virtual machine. Let me go here, select option, create a virtual machine. Okay. Now, I will use the resource group as demo. That is fine. Virtual machine name as, I'll say network interface, because going to use this for network interface. I'll give the name, and any OS is fine. I'll give the username and password. All right, and select option review and create. I've configured only few parameters. That's okay, because we want to concentrate on the network interface. So when we see this server, once the server is created, we will go into the networking and we will see how many network interfaces are assigned. Okay, ideally we will see only one network interface will be there. Okay, and then we will see how to create and assign a second network interface to this particular virtual machine. Okay, the deployment is in progress. Now, if you see under resources, you'll keep seeing the resources are getting created. One of the resource would be network interface. You see, network interface IP is created. Okay, network interface. This is created IP. This is network security group. Okay, this network interface is the name of the server. So it has created one network security group. It has created one IP. You see, it has created one. It is creating see network, compute. There are a lot of components it is creating. Let's hold on for a moment. This will take another 10 seconds for the virtual machine to be created. Okay, now you see the resource is created. Let me go to the resource. Okay, the name of the virtual machine I have given as network interface. Now, Now if we go into the networking here, okay, you see how many network interfaces are there. It has created something called as a network interface 36. One network interface is attached to this particular server, okay, that is having the IP address 20.85.27 plus dot 109. Now if I have to attach second network interface, where would I attach? You see here, attached network interface, it is disabled by default, so I cannot attach. Why I'm not able to, why this option is not highlighted? Because if we have to attach a secondary interface to that, the virtual machine status has to be stopped. Okay, so I'm going to stop this virtual machine. Okay, it is asking, do you want to stop the virtual machine by name network interface? I'm saying yes, I want to stop this. Okay, now the virtual machine would be stopped in a moment. Let's wait for a moment, let the virtual machine get stopped. Okay, now let me go to this virtual machine. If we see, go to virtual machines, you see the status, it is stopped. Okay, now let me go to this virtual machine and go into networking. Now you see this option, attach a network interface got highlighted. Now if I click in this here, if we already have another network interface, we can select that here, but it is asking create an attached network interface also. So if I want to choose any one of them, we can choose. If we want to create, we can create a new one. Okay, now it has selected everything default, subscription, resource group. Okay, name, I'll give it as second network interface. Okay, and this has to be in this subnet called as database. I think that is the subnet that I have given. Select option, create. Right, now it is creating and attaching, so it will do both at the same time. It will create the network interface and it will also attach, because from the server itself, where there's an option attached network interface, we have given it from there only. Okay, let's give it a moment. It is still creating a network interface. This would take about a moment. Now the second interface is also attached. You see here, interface, that is the first interface, second interface. Now both the interfaces are attached for this particular virtual machine called as network interface. The first network interface card is called as network interface, that is the second one is called as second network interface. We can also confirm this by going here, network interfaces. Okay, if I go to network interfaces, you see I have network interface 36 and I have second network interface. If you see to where they are attached, both the network interfaces, this one and this one, both are attached to the same sum. Okay, now we can go ahead and start the server. I'm starting the server now. So basically what we need to understand is that when you have to attach a second network interface, first of all, you need to stop the server and then attach a second network interface and then you can switch that on. Okay, that is how you can attach multiple network interfaces to virtual machines. The status is unknown, it is still starting. Okay, now the virtual machine is started. Okay, it's not started yet. It is saying starting. The status is starting now. Okay, now the status is running. Let me click on this network interface. Go to networking. Okay, now you can see very clearly this has multiple network interfaces. Network interface 36 is the default it is created, and this is the second network interface. So that the traffic can be internal traffic can be routed through the second network interface, so that performance of this virtual machine would be better. Okay, that is how you create network interfaces and assign to virtual machines. Okay, now let's see the agenda once. Okay, now we have finished this how to create a networking interface. We understood what is a network interface and how to attach a second network interface to a virtual machine. Now let us understand first what is a network security group and then how to configure security rules for network security group. So in short, this network security group, we call it as NSG. NSG stands for Network Security Group. Let me go to my whiteboard first. Let us try to understand what is a network security. Now, let us say once we make this server public, that means once we give a public IP address to server, we get lot of traffic from internet, okay, through the public IP address. Now, what traffic should be allowed to this server? What traffic should be denied to the server? Who has to uh, have the access? All that rules we can group them in something called as network security group. So what we define here, we define the rules. So one of the capability of Azure networking we have discussed in the last chapter is that it can filter the traffic. The filtering of the traffic will be done by using the rules. Now where we define these rules are defined in the network security groups. We can define what rules that we have to allow, or we can define what we need to deny. Okay, so let us go ahead and see first of all how the network security group. So when we create a virtual machine, by default there is a network security group that is created and assigned to the virtual machine, and there are couple of default rules that are added and default rules that are denied. On top of that, we can add our own rules to define our security. Okay. So we created one virtual machine couple of minutes back. Let us go to that virtual machine and see the network security group. Now I am there on the virtual machine here. Okay, this is my virtual machine. Now if I go into networking, okay, you see there is a network security group that it got created, and the name of network security group here it is network interface hyphen nsg. So network interface and network security group, these are two different things. Network interface is a interface that is attached to the server to get a public IP address. Okay, network security group is to add the rules. So if you see here, there are a couple of rules that are added. A rule name is called as RDP. Okay, it has to work on port 3389. The protocol it has to work is with TCP, and which what should have access, any access, destination, any. What is the action? Do you want to allow this or deny this? I'm saying allow. Now let us say let us add one port here. Okay, there is only RDP port, right? This server is not a web server yet. Okay, let me add a inbound portal. Let us do one thing. Let us create a new virtual machine and then create that. Let me go to create a Azure virtual machine. Okay, I will say the resource group as demo. I'll host a website on this. Okay, let it be a Ubuntu server. All right. This is enough, and I'll give the username, password, and the username. Password is my password. Okay, and I'm giving my password. Let me retype this. All right, now if you see, I'm only adding SSH port. I'm not adding any other ports. We can add this later. Okay, let me review and create. Now select option create. Now this would take about a minute for the virtual machine to be created. The deployment is happening. Let us wait for about 30 seconds. Now if you see, the resource is created, let me go to the resource. Okay, now let's go to the networking. Now we can see a network security group is created. In this, there is an SSH port. Okay, priority is 300. What is the priority? We'll discuss that in a bit. Now, what we'll do, let me connect to this particular virtual machine. The IP address is this. Let me go to PuTTY. Give the IP address. Select option open. I'll give the username and password. Okay. I have given the password. I'm able to log into the server. Let me go change to a root user. Okay. Change the root folder. Unless I can see all the default folders there. Let me make this server as a web server. So sudo apt update. Okay. And make sudo apt install apache 2-y. Now ideally, once this is installed, if I put the public IP address, I should be able to see a default web page. Okay, let me go here, put that in a public IP address. I'm not able to see the page. The page is not popping up. Why? Why I'm not able to do that? Let me explain it here. So now, basically, I created a virtual machine. Okay. And to this virtual machine, by default, there is one network security group that is created. Okay. Now, I'm as a user trying to access this virtual machine through public IP address. Now, when I gave a request here, when I gave a request to this particular public IP address, first of all, it is going and checking the network security group. Now, this virtual machine, I made it as a web server, right? So, if we have to access web server, what port it works? It works on port 80. Now, if the website has to be displayed, I have to add this port 80 to this network security group. Okay. Now, did we add that port 80 to the network security group? Let us go back and check that first. Let's go here. Now, let me go to the networking. This is the server. Okay. Let's go to this network security group. That is web server NSG is the network security. Now, if I see, there is inbound security rules, outbound security rules. Okay. Let us park that for a minute. We'll understand that later. Now, in the inbound, there is only SSH. So, I'm able to connect to SSH. Now, do we have anywhere this port 80 here? Port 80 is not there anywhere. Okay. That is the reason we are not able to access. Now, what shall we do? Let us add port 80 to this. How to add port 80? Now, if you see inbound security rules, go there. You see on the top, there's an option called as add. Select add. Now, what is the source? As of now, let us put any, but there is something like IP address, my IP address, service tag, application security group. There are multiple options. We'll look into that. As of now, let the source be any. What is the port range? I'll put the port range as star. As of now, let us leave it. Destination, it could be any. Service, I want to make it as HTTP because that is a port, or else we can, if it is SSH, etc., etc. Now, as soon as I took the service as HTTP, it has selected the destination port as port 80. Now, whether I want to allow this or deny this, I want to allow this. Okay. Now, let's see. I want to allow. Let me give the priority for this as 400. Okay. I want to allow this. Let me select option add. Okay. Now, what I am doing, I came into the network security group. I'm adding a port 80 to this inbound security rules. That means, okay, to this network security group, I'm saying add port 80, that is HTTP port. So that once if I give a request again, it will go to this NSG. It will see whether this HTTP port 80 is there or not. If it is there, what action? I'm saying the action allow, right? Okay. Now it should allow the access of this website. Let us see that whether this port has been added. So now if you see, this port has been added. It is a allow operation. Now let us refresh that and see whether the web page is coming or not. You see, the web page has come up. So that is a network security group to add rules so that we will be able to restrict or filter the traffic. Okay, now let me do one more thing. Let's say add any, I'll put it as service as HTTP, same thing. Now I'll say deny. Okay, and now I will give the priority as 210. You see, the priority must be 100 and 4096. So if I give 100, it will get the highest priority. Okay, now I'm giving the priority as 100. I'm selecting option. So now everything same. I have given HTTP port 80, etc. But I'm doing what action? I'm doing a deny action. Select add. Now let us see what happens. Then we can understand what is action allow, what is action deny. And we can also understand what is priority with this. Okay, it's getting added. Now if you see this rule getting added here, let me refresh this. Okay, let me go refresh this again. Let me copy this so that we'll understand easily. Copy the IP address. Let me go to a browser, paste that again. Now the web page is not coming. Why it is not coming? Because if you see here, I have added a rule. Okay, I have added two rules here. I have added port 80 and port 80. Both to allow also I have added, to deny also added. Then why deny is working and why not allow is working? Because I have given the top priority for deny. So first NSG, first it has checked the top priority, and top priority is deny. Deny what? Port 80. So after that, it will not check anything else. Even though there is a allow for this, it will not check. So it will take the highest priority into the consideration. Okay. So that is what is the priority. So highest priority will take into the consideration. Now let us do one more thing. Let us go to, let me delete this rule. I'm denying the delete rule. Okay. The rule is getting deleted now. This will take about 20 seconds. Okay, the security rule is deleted. Now let me give the same rule, but let me give you the priority as 500. Let me go to add, let's say service is HTTP. Okay, and I will give the priority as, I'll give the action as deny, and I'm going to give the priority as 410 is also fine, but let me give it as 500. Okay, so now let me add. I'm adding this rule priority at 500, and it is a deny rule. Now 400 has a allow rule. Priority 400 has a allow rule. So which will be effective? Allow or deny? So it has to give priority to this 400. 400 rule is allow. So now it should be allowed. Let us go ahead and see. You see the web page has came up. That is how the priority will work. And that is how allow and deny operations, we can define a rule, and through the rule we can either allow the action or deny the action. We can do anything. Now let us go to add again. Now you see there's something called as IP address. Now what is the IP address? Now when I saying source is any, that means what? I'm saying that, okay, anybody can connect to this web server. Now I'm saying that only me with my laptop, only from my laptop. I should, if I have one laptop and one desktop, I don't want everybody to access. I want only this laptop to have access. Nobody else. Then I can add an IP address there. Let us see how to do that. Now, if you see, there's an option called as my IP address. So it has by default taken my IP address of my laptop. Or let's say my team, there are about 10 people in my team. I want all the 10 members from my team, from their laptops, they should be able to access. That means from my network. Let's say my network is there in some IP address range. I want all of them to access that. I can give my IP address and give a CIDR range. Sorry, this would be, yeah, IP address, and I can give a CIDR range here. But as of now, let me select my IP address, and this is the IP address. And let's say it should be allow. I will take the same HTTP port. It should be allow, and I'll give this as a topmost priority. Okay, select option add. Okay, that is how we can add from your particular IP address. Now nobody else will get access. If I access this website from my web page, from my laptop only, it will work. Okay, and again this is also allow, right? If somebody is trying to access, any access is also there, it will also allow. But if I remove this, okay, let's say I want to remove this, I can remove this rule. Okay, now only from my laptop I'll be able to access this particular server. Nobody else will be able to access that. That is one way of defining secured way of adding rules to the network security. Okay, now you see this 65000 all these are the default inbound rules which is already there. Now let's say this default rules, if I want to delete, can I delete that? I'll not be able to delete that. You see here, I'll not be able to delete the default inbound rules which is already there. Okay, those are by default defined. That is about inbound rules. Okay, that is about uh, so we know how to create a network security group, we know how to add rules to the network security group. Okay, and we know what is a priority, we know how to add a IP address. Okay, let us see two more things. Okay, we will discuss all these three outbound rules, allow, ICMP and subnets. First, let us discuss about allow ICMP. Okay. Now, what is this ICMP? Now, let's say, let me go to my server. Okay. Now, if I want to know the status of this particular server, whether it is up or down, how we'll come to know? We can simply go do a CMD and then ping. Because it has a public IP address, I'm trying to ping, but I'm getting request timed out. So to make sure that you have permissions to ping a server, we have to add this ICMP rule. Now, how to do that? Let me go to networking again. Let's go to that network security group. Okay, this is a web server NSG. This is a network security group. Let me go here and go to inbound security rules. Go to add. Now, if you see here under source any, there is something called as uh, let's put it as any, and we can put it as any, and rest all let me leave it as default. Okay, custom port is also fine. Now you see here. Okay, if I put port range is also like star, right? That means any port. Now if you see under protocol, there's something called as ICMP. Okay, I'll select it as allow and select add. Okay, let's see. Let's wait for a minute. This IPMP rule is added here now. Let's go to command line. Okay, now ping it again. Okay, what is the server name? Go to network interface. What is the IP address of this? Okay, this IP address. Now you see, still requester is timed out. Why? Because on my local system also there's a firewall, right? There also I should add a rule. How can I add a rule there? Let me go here. Let's say Windows firewall defender here. Okay. Let's say Windows firewall. No, this is not the option. Let us go to Windows firewall with advanced security. Okay. Let's go here. Now go to the Windows firewall here. You see in the inbound rules, there's an option called as new rule. Select new rule, choose custom rule and select next. Now all programs is fine for us. Click on next. In the protocol type, select ICMP4 protocol. Go on to next. And we want to allow any IP address. Click on next. What we should do, allow or block, allow it. It could be domain, private or public. The rule should be applied to all and then give a name to the rule. I'll say the rule name is allow ICMP. And then click on the finish button. So now basically we have created a new rule with ICMP. Now let's go and try and ping the server. And one more thing, this rule to be effective, it might take some time. Okay. So we will try this after some time. Let's check on Azure that we have added this rule or not. Now you see, let's confirm. Yeah, all the rules are added. Everything is fine. Let us try for one more time. Okay, but normally it would take about 3-4 minutes for this to become active. Let's see. Okay, I need to print from my local laptop. You see, now there's a reply that is coming. So now, because we have enabled ICMP protocol, I'm able to ping to that particular server. So that is how you enable ICMP to ping the remote servers. You have to add a rule to your network security groups. Okay. So we understood about priority, we understood about IP addresses, we understood about ICMP. Now there are two types of rules. One is inbound rules, second one is called as outbound rules. Now what is that? We have added port 80. Okay. We have added port 80. So what all these are these rules are applied in network security group for the incoming traffic. Now let's say a virtual machine wants to send something outside the network, outside the Azure cloud or outside the network, outside the VNet. Then we also have to add a rule for that also. And that is basically called as outbound rules. Okay. Inbound rules are for incoming traffic. Outbound rules are for outgoing traffic. Now let us see about the outbound rules. Now if you go here into networking and we will see the network security group. Now you see there are two things here, right? One is inbound security rules, another one is outbound security rules. Now we can go to outbound security rules. So these are the default outbound rules which are there. Okay, it only allows the traffic to go out of the virtual network and it allows outside the internet. Okay, and deny all outbound are denied by default. Now if I want to add, similarly we can keep on adding our outbound rules as well. Okay, that is about inbound rules and outbound rules. Now let us say I want to assign a NSG to a security group. Is it possible? Okay, now let us see what it is. Let's say I'm creating one VNet. Okay, and I'm creating one subnet. There can be lot of resources in this subnet. Okay, there can be multiple virtual machines, etc., etc. Now I want to associate a network security group not to a virtual machine but to a subnet. Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. Let us go ahead and see how it is possible. Let's see, in the network security group, this is a network security group, right? There's an option called as subnet. You can see there's something called as associate, Now it is asking to which virtual network you want to assign. I am saying, let's say my demo VNet. In this, there are two subnets. One is web server, second one is database. There's also Azure Bastion subnet. As of now, we can forget about that. So now if I select database server, click on OK. Now, whatever inbound and outbound rules which are part of this subnet, all this will be applicable on whatever rules which are part of this network security group, all this will be applicable for this particular subnet. Okay, that's how we assign a network security group to a subnet. But normally, usually network security groups are given to network interfaces, right? So let me put that here again. Let's say there's a virtual machine. Every virtual machine will have a network interface. Okay, now let's say we create a network security group. Normally these network security groups are assigned to the network interface. So if a user sending a request, first of all we'll check whether that rule is there in that network security group, and then you'll get access. But we can also give a network security group to a subnet. Okay, we'll also give a network security group to a subnet. Let's go back to our agenda. Okay, now we finished understanding about network interfaces. We understood about secondary network interface. We understood about network security group, and we understood network security group, how to create configure rules, how to add priority, IP addresses, etc. Now let us understand application security group. Okay, we'll understand what is a application security group. Okay, let us go to our whiteboard to understand what is application security group, right? Right now, let us say I have multiple subnets. Okay, I have subnet 1. Okay, in the subnet 1 I have one virtual machine. Okay, and this is subnet 2. I have another virtual machine. This is subnet 3, another virtual machine. Okay, subnet 4, another virtual machine. Now, with the help of NSDs, now let's say if I want this virtual machine to access this, we can create a network security group and we can add a rule saying that this server can access this. Now, let's say if I want this server also to access this and this server also to access this, ideally what we need to do, we need to create a network security group here. We need to create a network security group, NSG for this and NSG for this. So we have to create multiple NSGs and we have to add multiple rules. But now what we can do is that we can create something called as application security group, and we can add all these virtual machines in this application security group. Now instead of creating multiple network security groups, what we can do, we can just create one network security group, one network security group, and this in network security add a rule as ASG, either allow, deny, whatever it is. So in a network security group I'm adding application security group. So in my application security group I have multiple servers. So basically an application security group, we can just call it as an extension of a network security group. So an application security group, you can add it as a rule in a network security group. Okay, that is all about application security group. Now let's see the next topic, which is called as a bastion host. Now, what is a bastion host? Now, let us say, there are lot of virtual machines. Now, let's say there are multiple virtual machines. Okay, on the Azure cloud. Okay, now if we have to access all the servers, obviously we should have public IP address for all the servers. But if we have public IP address to all the servers, then it is basically a security threat that a lot of vulnerabilities can happen. Now, what we will do is that we will create one subnet and we will have a management server. So where we log into this management server and with the help of public IP address, and from this server we can log into this server with the help of private IP address. Okay. Now to do this, we have to create this particular server also. We only have to manage. Some companies call this as management server, or some companies call this as a jump host. That means connect to this server and jump to this server. All right. But Azure gives us a service. It calls as bastion host. Okay. All this server is managed by Azure itself. Okay, we don't need to upfront create this server. With the help of this bastion host, we can connect to this particular servers even we don't have a public IP address in the browser. Let us see how to do that. Now let me create a new server without a public IP address and then connect to that. Let's go to these virtual machines. Select option create a virtual machine. Okay, and then select a virtual machine name, new VM for demo. This is the name. All right, I'll give the name as the password, name as okay, okay, and port numbers. I will add the port numbers as I'll give multiple ports. It's okay. We can add these ports, no issues. All right. Now let me go to networking, and you see public IP address. I will choose the public IP address as none. That means I don't want a public IP address for this server. Select option, review and create. Okay, this particular server is a Ubuntu server. The operating system is Ubuntu on this. Select option, create. Okay, this will take about a minute for the server to be created. The deployment is in progress. Now the resource is created. Let me go to the resource. Now, if you see, there is no public IP address for this. Okay, let me refresh. There is no public IP address for this. But if I want to connect this to the server, you see there's an option called as connect here. Click on this. Okay. Now you see we can connect through RDP SSH, and the third option is bastion host. I'll select use bastion host. Okay. Give the username, give the password. and select connect. Now we will be directly connecting to the shell from the browser itself. You see, new VM for demo. This is the VM that we have created, and I logged in with the user my name. Okay, so that is how we can use a bastion host and connect to the server with the help of private IP address. That is the use of bastion host. We can also connect to a Windows server also. Let us see. I already have a Windows server here. Let's see. Go to network interface. Okay. Does this have a public IP address? Yeah, it has a public IP address. Let me go to networking. Okay. Let's go to networking. This is a network IP address. Okay. Now let's say deassociate. That means I'm removing the public IP address from this server. Okay. I am deassociating this IP address. So I want to show you guys, even though there is no public IP address, we can still connect. I'll say deassociation confirm. Yes. So basically, removing the IP address means what? Removing a network interface. Okay, you're not able to remove that. Why is that? I think it's already removed. Okay. No. Yeah, it is removed. It is not associated with that particular server now. Let's go there. Let's go to virtual machines. Go to this Windows virtual machine. Okay, if you see, there is no IP address. But let's say go to connect now. I'll use a Bastion host to connect to this now. Use Bastion. Okay, type the username and password. Select option connect. You see, now the Windows server also is opening in the browser. Okay, through this way, even though we don't have public IP addresses, we can first connect to the Bastion host, and from there we can connect to the servers. So in this way, will not expose lot of our servers to the public. That is the use of a Bastion host. I hope it is clear. So in today's session, we basically understood about network interfaces, about network security group. We understood about application security group and understood about Azure Bastion host. Okay, and we did a couple of hands-on exercises to make sure these concepts are clear for you. All right. See you guys in the next session. Take care.